All right, welcome back to the skill review for Chapter 3. This is Part 2. All right, we're going to start in step number 8. So step number 8, it wants us to name a range. And a named range, we can use that name in a formula just like any other range. And so sometimes it's helpful to name a range so that you can use it to print or just to know where that area is, or when it's used in a formula, exactly what that means, what that number means for that particular formula. All right, so what we want to do is we're going to create a named range in cell D7 to R7. So we'll need to highlight that. So D7 to R7. And it says in the name box, type possible points mid, press enter. Okay, this is the name box. So possible, spell it just like it's written, otherwise you'll get counted off. Hit enter. Now, the process for naming ranges is you highlight the range and then you give it a name. And so if you come over here and we look at the name manager, we can see that we've got a name here and it tells us where that range is, D7 to R7. So if we need to delete something because we misspelled it, we might come to the name manager and we can highlight it and hit delete and start over. Right. So now we're going to move on to step 9. Step 9 says find out the students, which students have a grade below C at the cutoff point for dropping the class. Enter an if function in cell S10. Okay. To check if the student's total points divided by the total possible points through the midterm is less than 70%. That's what less than the C is. Use the sum function within the if function. Be sure to use the range name you just defined for possible points if the student is below a C grade. Display warning in the cell, otherwise leave the cell blank. Okay. So let's talk about if for a second. So we'll say equals if open parentheses. So there's 3 arguments that are needed inside an if statement. One is you have to figure out some kind of test. Is what you're looking for greater than or equal to something? It needs to return a true or a false. So if you're looking for something, if it's true, then what do you want to put in that cell? Could be more text, could be another function, another formula, or just a number, or just some text. If this isn't true, then it will put in whatever you specified in this area here. Okay? So let's say we'll do a test. Equals B2 equals or greater than 17. I should say less than. That's the less than sign. So if B2 is less than 17, I want to say, and notice you got to put it in quotes. That's what will go into that cell. If it's greater than, that means this is false, or equal to 17, then greater than or equal. Okay, so you can see what it put in the cell. So it's a condition. If the condition evaluates to true, do this. If the condition evaluates to false, do this. And, to make this even more complex, you could put other functions in here. So if it's less than 17, I want to do a financial function that uses a different percentage rate or something. the options are endless, but that's the basics of the if function. All right, so we don't need to have that here on our screen. So let's go back to step 9 again. What we want to do is class drop cutoff points. So we're going to click in S10. Then it says click on the formula tab in the functions, click logical, click if. Okay. Logical. Click if. So it's going to just build those arguments for you in this dialog box. Okay. And the logical test argument, type in the following. So we're going to actually do the sum of D10 to R10 divided by the sum of, and this is where our function name comes in again, possible DTS mid. So get those points. If that's less than 70%, you got to have percent here because that sum divided by the sum is going to give you a decimal point number. And if you said less than 70, it's always going to be less than 70. So this is really 0.70 here. Okay, if the value is true, then what I want to put on the screen for that student is a warning, exclamation mark. Notice that I'm typing in a quote in everything, and then a single quote with no space in between. So that's a blank. If it's a space, it means that character is actually in there, and that's not the same as a blank, especially when you're working with computers. Once we're done with that, and click OK. So it tells you what the formula should look like. And we should have done this at S10. Wow, I put it in the wrong place. What to do, what to do. Okay. Because it's using D10s, and I can't just copy it down. Let me see if I can. So I put a blank in here. I'll do a Control C. I'll try moving it to here. So relative speaking, what did it do? It made it to D13, but that's not what I want here. So here's a little trick you can do when you type things in the wrong place, but you've used the right cell references. And you can't copy it because they'll update because of relative addressing. What you can do is you can make this a label by putting an apostrophe in front of it. Okay, so I got this huge function here. I'm going to do Control X for cut. And I'm going to paste it right here. Control V. And now I'm going to unlabel this. Just delete the apostrophe. Hit enter. Now, when it's done, I just move that up so it wouldn't be as tall a row anymore. It's just put in a blank. So let's think about this. What this formula is doing, it's saying sum all these points that the student earned divided by the points possible, right, from D to R10, because that's what we named this range here. Give us a percentage and see if that's less than 70%. If it is, put in warning. If it isn't, put in blank. Right? The only way to get good at these if functions is to practice with them. So I would suggest you go off to the side and practice, doing ifs with greater thans, less thans, any kind of conditions you can think of. All right. So what we need to do is just copy this down now. And we can see that it's giving me some warnings in there. Okay, so these students are not doing well. So we're going to continue on now with step 10. It says find the highest score for each assignment. So in cell D4, we're going to use this one. So we're going to say max, because that's highest. There's a function called max, min, and average. So equals max, open parentheses. And then we're going to build this formula. We're going to click on D10. And normally I would have clicked and held and dragged to right here. Notice it builds that range for me. We can click up here, put a closing parentheses, and hit enter. So then it says copy the formula across the row to cell AB4. So we're going to do this for all of these cells. So we'll just grab this. That tells me what the maximum is in each column. So like in column Q, nobody made a perfect score. All right, and we want to find the 11th, step 11 I should say, the minimum for each one. So we're going to do the same thing again, except we're going to use the minimum value or function. So that's lowest. When you want the lowest of something, or smallest, or greatest for it would be max. Equals min. And again, we'll click and hold. Do the close parentheses. And then we need to drag it across. Use any method you want. Okay? So if I got a couple of these, it's kind of time consuming. So the next step, step 12, wants you to use the average of D10 to D26. So the average for that particular assignment. And you can see if I type AB, it brings me up all those. We want this one. So we're going to double click on that. I'm going to select D10 to D26. To me, that's easier than typing it in. Press enter. Okay. And then we need to copy these across. So I did this a little different than the steps there, but you can copy formulas. We could have done all three of these at once and then copied everything across. So you would be wasting time to do a bunch of these. Okay. So it's giving us all those values. So typically if you were working, you would have done all three at once and copied everything over instead of doing copy this one over, build a formula, copy it over, and so on. So save yourself some time. All right, step 13 says compute the student's total points, enter a sum function with AC10. So AC10 is right here. We're going to do the sum function, so I'll click on the home tab and I'll hit sum. and it thinks it just wants to sum T10 to AB10. Right? But really what we want is D10. So what happened here? It ran into a blank cell, and it thinks it should stop. So I'm going to grab this and make sure I get to D10. And now I've got the correct formula here. Copy the formula from AC10 to AC26. I'm just going to double click here. And that should give me a copy everything down. I'm going to stop here, and when we come back, we'll finish it up.